In this video, we're going to talk about Fernando Alonso and why he's probably F1's most likable driver.
Oh, you might want to do this. Is this him getting past the...
This is Fernando Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda, and Fernando Alonso is so experienced he can go half on the grass and yet still get a decent drag and then wag a finger at Yuki Tsunoda as he tries to get past him.
So in this first clip, you can see him going wheel to wheel with Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando obviously having bags of experience, whereas Yuki being a much more younger, inexperienced driver. You can see Fernando Alonso there when he went onto the grass, kind of wagged his finger at Yuki disapprovingly, kind of like the master teaching the apprentice almost. Or the teacher and the student.
Alonso komt ook nog even gezellig. Go together.
No, we can have it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Always say age before beauty.
Exactly.
I will be very short, don't worry. Go. Points. Well done. Yes, thank you. Thank you, guys.
So in this next clip here, you can see him with Lando Norris. Obviously, Lando was meant to do the interview first, but Fernando kind of just jumped in all of a sudden, unexpectedly, when the interviewer was obviously expecting Lando to do it first. But that's what I mean. Fernando is just a very funny, likable guy, the way he just funnily, humorously steps into the interview when nobody really saw it coming. And Lando kind of plays along with it. I think the interviewer was asking about them doing the interview together. But yeah, no, Alonso, like I say, just has that kind of character. He's just seems like a very genuine guy.
How many laps do you need in a new track to find the limit?
2.
I do it in 1.5.
1.
So in this next clip here, you can see Fernando Alonso trying to one-up Sebastian Vettel. You know, the interviewer is asking how many laps it takes to find the limit. Alonso initially goes in with 2, but then when he hears Vettel say 1.5, he then goes with 1, trying to say he can kind of do better than Vettel when it comes to finding that limit. Kind of whatever somebody else says, he kind of responds to it accordingly. Like I say, it just seems like just a really funny, likable Donny in the paddock.
Who is funnier?
Ooh.
Oh, that was a quick one, Fernando.
Both gone for Fernando.
Okay, so in this clip, obviously the interviewer is asking who do they think is funnier out of the previous Alpine pair, Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso. And it's kind of funny how Fernando kind of goes for himself. He believes he is the funnier out of the two, and he's obviously right. But obviously the fact that his teammate Esteban also agrees. Like I said, Fernando is that really funny, likable guy in the paddock. And obviously there's a lot of other humorous characters like Lando and Daniel Ricciardo, but Fernando, like I said, his humor and the fact that he kind of realizes that he himself is a funny guy is pretty jokes as well.
Question to Fernando: if you have the possibility to choose your teammate for next year, would you choose Jensen?
Hello.
Okay, you can take your time.
Yes, earlier. Didn't he say yes earlier?
I think he might have said that, something like that.
Okay, so in this clip, the guy's asking him about, his teammate being Jensen. The fact that Fernando is very kind of hesitant and reluctant to answer, he's kind of stalling, not really giving an actual response. It's kind of funny.
I like Formula 1. I will always love Formula 1. So if I will be here in the future as a driver, as a father, as a FIA boss, or whatever, I will think.
Anyway.
Not the FIA, but at least when I retire.
Maximum penalties.
Yeah.
So in this clip, you can see Fernando expressing his love and passion for the sport, Formula 1, which is obviously cool to see. But obviously the fact that he says even when he retires, he'll kind of reappear in the sport through different ways, whether that be, maybe a team principal, an FIA boss or whatever. But he said he wants to go back to the sport even after he's finished, which is pretty cool to see. It shows that he has that passion for it.
Who is better looking? Got an answer from Fernando, and you agree.
Yeah.
Fernando's the better looking one in the team.
Nice.
Okay, so once again here you can see Fernando kind of backing himself, bigging himself up, saying he's the better looking person out of the two, him and Esteban Ocon. And I mean, obviously looks are subjective, whatever, but like I said, it is quite funny how he is confident in himself, which is quite a likable trait. When somebody kind of believes in themselves, has that confidence.
Wish list. Wishes for the new owners of F1.
Equal engines for everyone.
I don't agree with that one.
Okay, so you can see Fernando obviously wishing that the engines were more balanced so that on the track it would be a lot more fair for rival teams to Mercedes, because at that time Mercedes were obviously dominating, so Fernando in that McLaren Honda was obviously struggling a lot, hence why he wishes the cars were more even, more fair by the engines being more balanced. Because yeah, that McLaren Honda at the time was pretty terrible, pretty woeful. So Fernando was just saying like, you know, I really want a more competitive car so that I can actually be in contention for the championship, and it's obviously a lot more enjoyable for him and the other drivers when the cars are more even. Except if your name is Lewis Hamilton, obviously then you don't want that to be the case.
Who was your favorite Formula One driver when you were growing up?
Yeah. For me,
I think you know.
For me, it was Ayrton Senna, but for you was Mario Bros or Lion King or something.
Mario Bros.
So you can see Fernando Alonso with Carlos Sainz, the two Spaniards on the grid. And obviously when Fernando was asked who his idol is, he gave a very reasonable, sensible answer. But then when it came to Carlos Sainz's idol, or the person he looked up to in Formula One when he was growing up, you know, Fernando jokingly said, obviously it was probably Fernando that Carlos looked up to, you know, being a fellow Spaniard, but Fernando just jokingly says, you know, Carlos Sainz looked up to fictional characters like Mario, Lion King, etc. But like I said, the thing with Fernando that makes him so likable is he just seems to joke around a lot. He can be serious at times, but also he's also down for a laugh, and his answers and responses to things are usually just jokes. And like he doesn't always take stuff seriously, which is nice, because a traditional Formula One driver like a Schumacher or someone of that mold is someone who's very kind of serious, just solely focused on the driving, etc. But Alonso, one of the things that just makes him a really likable Donny is the fact that he kind of contrasts what a typical F1 driver would be like in terms of his humor, personality, etc. Okay, so in that clip you could see Pierre Gasly was stepping up to do an interview, but Fernando Alonso just jokingly stepped in before him, just pretend to do the interview instead. But obviously he lets Pierre Gasly go through and do it. But like I say, the fact that he just kind of steps in randomly when nobody expects him to, like I said, it's just really funny. As I said before, that's what makes him one of the most likable figures in the paddock. He has this sense of humor about him to just randomly hop into interviews. It is just a really likable trait about Fernando, because it is refreshing to see. A lot of the times you see drivers doing interviews a lot more seriously, a lot more formally.
Wow, we're just talking about you.
Talking about your car. Hello, China. Ni hao. For Alpine F1 Instagram. Hello, Alpine China. Ni hao. Ready? Yes.
Okay, so in this clip you can see Fernando Alonso with Zhou Guanyu. Obviously Zhou Guanyu is now at Alfa Romeo, but at the time he was, I assume, an Alpine F1 reserve driver or third driver or development driver. But either way, at the time he was with Alpine, and obviously Fernando, instead of just saying like hi to the Alpine F1 Instagram, just jokingly says hello China, because obviously Zhou Guanyu himself is Chinese, probably brings a lot of Chinese people to become fans of the sport. So, and obviously China has a huge population. So like I said, Fernando, the way he thinks and the way he does things is obviously in a joking way, different to most F1 drivers who are a lot more serious. Like the fact that he just says hi to China is just jokes. And like I said, he's even causing Joe to crack up as well. Zhou Guanyu, when you see him in F1 now, he seems a lot more kind of reserved, a lot more serious, not really that humorous. But people like Fernando, because he's just a likable, funny guy, he causes other people to also kind of laugh and stuff like that.
Fernando, what do you think about the Red Bull decision to change the drivers?
They changed the drivers.
Okay, so in this clip you can see that Fernando's being asked a question by the interview in the press conference about Red Bull changing drivers or swapping drivers. His response is jokes. The fact that he just says they changed drivers, he didn't really know that actually happened, when he probably obviously did. But the fact that he just jokes, acting like he didn't even know that they switched drivers and stuff like that. Once again, he's given a response that you wouldn't really expect. It's obviously quite a funny, humorous response, and it's quite a funny, humorous response that causes everybody in the press conference to smile and laugh. And once again, that just shows why Fernando is such a likable guy.
Any particular advice for?
Don't be too aggressive in the first corner and let me go through.
Okay, so in this clip you can see once again he's in a press conference with his then teammate Lewis Hamilton back in his McLaren days, and when he's asked about giving advice to Lewis, obviously you'd expect him to say something, you know, like a racing driver would say, like, you know, do this, do that. His response goes against what you typically expect, which is what makes him this funny, likable person, as I was saying earlier, saying to Lewis, you know, let me go through, let me go past you, rather than giving him that traditional advice, like sticking to the racing line or whatever.
Any test? An exam when you were at school? Yeah? Which one?
I think it was a science thing.
Okay. Fernando?
Same. School. More than once.
Okay, so in this clip you can see Fernando Alonso with his teammate Stoffel Van Dorn at the time. This was once again when he was back at McLaren at a later time than the previous clip. But yeah, it's kind of funny how obviously Stoffel Van Dorn confessed that he cheated on a test before, but Alonso, he just openly, just straight up says he's done it as well more than once. And then obviously just smiles and causes Stoffel Van Dorn to laugh as well. And once again, that's the likable side of Fernando.